Hi, we're the lads. We're from New Zealand. What is the heart of the lads? I think you could say it is just telling people about who God is, hopefully in a real relevant way.
When you know God is there, people are connecting with God. It's like, man, this is so cool. This is what it's all about.
Amazing love elevated me. Now I see your face, light in every space, strong with me nearer for all eternity.
Hi everyone, I'm Cy Rogers here on Pure Passion, and I've got the real joy of introducing a couple of friends of mine from the pop rock band The Lads from down under in New Zealand, now based here in Nashville where we tape the program. And you know, The Lads have been around as an award-winning band for years, and their ministry, especially to young people, is something we want to take a look at today in our time together. So we're going to introduce them to you right now. We've got Steve King, Mark Millard.
Hey, how you doing, everyone? Hello, America.
That's right. Good to enjoy that Kiwi accent. And I don't know if you know, I used to live in New Zealand for about 4 years and had the joy of meeting them there. It's nice to have them on our turf, but wherever you're watching from, certainly youth culture is a big concern. When we think about sexual problems in the world today, you know, we hear statistics even in God's family that Christian young people are demonstrating a rate of sexual activity just about equal to the non-Christian community. And, you know, you have to wonder, why is that? We've got a lot of young people in church culture. They're well educated about God's standards, and yet they tend to demonstrate the same kinds of problems. I guess people are always people. But now you work with young people, and I mean, you're not counselors, but you have a kind of grassroots interface with them year after year in what you've been doing. What do you observe? Tell me.
We connect with young people on a different level. Initially as a band from the stage, but then afterwards we try and keep in touch with a lot of young people that are involved in our ministry. The thing that I would observe the most is that young people are incredibly passionate. They're moved by their passions and they're inspired by things. And when we as the church try to educate them, because we know it's a minefield out there,
yeah.
And if we try and educate them with, let's tell you about the risks. Let's tell you about rationally, these are the problems that you might face if you sexually make these choices. To me, it often doesn't work because it doesn't inspire. Because young people, they will take on risks. They'll do kind of sometimes some real silly things because there's a buzz out there. Risks, for me, don't often inspire and change the behaviour of young people. But from what we've seen, if you can connect a young person with God, if they can become passionate about that relationship with God, then suddenly they've got something a whole lot greater than just the thrill of the day to aim for in their life.
I think that's well said. I think when I think of young people, especially the issue of inspiration, I think even not just young people, but how many people out there in culture, they know about God, they know about the Bible, they know about its standards, and this isn't really making a remarkable difference in their lives in terms of changing behavior. You know,
information isn't enough.
It's not enough.
It's not enough.
And when I think of the Apostle Paul, it was really a revelation of God that transformed his life and character. It wasn't just somebody arguing, moralizing with him, so to speak, over his beliefs.
And yet there's a place, because he preached himself information, but it's that encounter that goes with it. It's the living word, it's the living encounter with God that he had that made him so passionate, and his life turned right around. And so there's always going to be things that are going to take kids down.
Yeah.
That they're going to want to try this, and so much of society is saying try this and that.
Well, and you know, interesting too, a lot of young people, you know, they take these risks. You were talking about the idea they don't think through consequence. It's a very real truth. If you understand brain development, brain wiring, young people, while they're mobile and have a lot of freedom and access to so much in culture today, the actual idea of consequence is something that develops with a more mature brain as you get older. And I know when I minister to young people, their problems also aren't going to resolve right away. I can try to lead them to the well, so to speak, but they may not really be able to drink quite yet because the brain not only doesn't have a full understanding of consequence, and for many years, but the ability for the brain to even process hurt, to cope with an unhappy home life, to forgive people who hurt or fail them, all that stuff can't resolve quite yet. It may be a while. I try to paint a picture of hope. But what I think you guys do so wonderfully, if you have a chance to ever attend a Lads concert or watch their DVDs, you can see where you all are really trying to introduce that presence of God into the lives of young people. Tell me about that and why you kind of got started going in this field to engage young people to encounter God.
I think for us it was a progression. You know, God is such a gracious God, and He was. When I look back, I see how God just worked so many things out, and we came together as a group of friends, and the band thing just grew out of that. But as we did it initially, just to have a lot of fun, just to enjoy playing, and to be honest, to be in front of an audience was always fun. You know,
yeah.
It became something that was more. God started to show us more things and explain more about how there was actually a purpose in it. And we started to build a burden, to develop a burden to actually share some of the truths about God with the young people in a way that they can relate to.
And so how does that go? I mean, you do a concert, okay, so you sing the songs and maybe you do create an ambience or an atmosphere. Then what happens?
To me, it's about communicating more than just truth. And music is a wonderful way to do that, because there's something about the way that God's made music that it just gets real deep down. And there's numerous cases in the Bible where that's demonstrated.
Sure.
At the very least, David and how he played for Saul, and it alleviated what was going on with him. Yeah. So somehow music communicates really deep. And so we share, in our concerts, we do share the incredible good news about who Jesus is. But more than that, we say we know that God is a good God. And we know that God is a God who has a heart that you would encounter Him, that you would meet Him. And so we create space.
Well, and isn't that the real thing that worked? I think even in my own life, I knew about God, and people watching right now, you know about God too. But there's a big difference between knowing about God versus experiencing Him. And an opportunity like you all create where people can come in, maybe not thinking they're coming to encounter God's presence, maybe thinking they're going to be entertained, and instead they have an opportunity to encounter not just truth, but God's presence and your invitation.
And and to me it's just so exciting to be able to say, do you not know that the God of the universe, who put everything in place and also who made you and knew you before you were born, actually wants to meet with you, actually wants to mess around with your life and make something good out of it, something incredible out of it.
Yeah. Well, with that in mind though, okay, so people have a great experience at your concert.
That's a beginning.
That's a beginning. Then what? I mean, surely you get letters, you get emails, you have people contacting you, and with problems. Then what?
Then what?
Well, see, I mean, it's interesting. I think just going back a step, one of the things I noticed for my life when I was growing up is that there's a lot of pressure to conform, to, all that sort of stuff, And one of the things that we love to see in our concerts when we're playing, which is like what Mark was saying, the times when there's an opportunity for people to connect with God, and when God can, when you see something happen, God starts to just do something supernatural in someone's life, and at those times, those are times when you start to see change come, and we hear so many stories from people who say, man, I knew stuff about God. It's like you were saying, I knew things about God. I knew who God was. I'd read about Him. I'd been taught about Him at church. But at your concert, I had an opportunity to make a connection with God like I never have before. And that started to transform me. And that's awesome, because that's when God starts to do stuff. That's when, like for me growing up, there was a time in my life where it came to a point of saying, all right, I've been going to church for a long time. I've got a lot of Christian friends. I grew up with Mark and some other guys from the band. And that kind of was all theoretical, the whole relationship with God was just a theory, but then all of a sudden you come to a point where it's like, man, this is actually real. God actually loves me. God wants me to be in a relationship with Him. And then there's opportunity starts to come where God can start to move in your life and bring some reality. And so you go from that point of I think young people, we see it a lot with the lads, go from a point of knowing about God to realizing, to knowing God, to understanding who He is, to having Him in their lives. And at that point, that's when you start to see changes in their lives, where they start to make good decisions. When they start to say, I'm not going to conform to what my friends at school or even other friends at church might want me to do.
Right.
This is where the teaching part comes in so important, is because they've heard things about what, the right way to live, the things that the way God would want them to be living. But it shifts from being a task to being this is what I want to do. We did. I grew up in the Salvation Army back in New Zealand, and there's a term that's used in the Salvation Army when you die. It's called promotion to glory. That's what they say, you know, they say such and such has been promoted to glory when they die. And I think that kind of is part of the essence, I guess, what the song's about, eh? It's like, man, when you die, man, it's like, yeah, you're promoted, you made the big promotion, and you're off to heaven, and heaven's just awesome, you know?
That's better than a gold watch, eh?
See the light ahead is where I'll be.
This talks about it's a song that comes from God's perspective. It's just saying, you know, like, man, the times God's saying to us, you know, the times when you hang out with me, when you take time out to be with me, that's my favourite time of day, and that's the times I love. And I think that's really cool. It's such an amazing thought to think that God is just hanging out to hang out with me, you know.
I think for us also, we had this thing when we were growing up that we thought, we started to come up with these life rules, right? These life rules that, you know, if things go and stink in your life, normally one of these 2 life rules isn't working, right? And the 2 life rules were simply just get good sleeps, and the second one was have good times with God, right? And if you got those 2 rules happening,
keep those things going,
you got a good life.
Things are going to go okay.
And then there's, like, keep up with personal hygiene.
Personal hygiene.
Yeah,
I mean,
that
we
came
tried
up
to
later
slide
on.
that in.
We were guys. I mean,
And
you
it's
have to lay down
important.
those sorts of rules.
You know,
you
you
need to keep personal hygiene.
You can't always just be a group of boys, can you? I mean, there's a time when you realise that, hey, even though I really love you guys as mates, there's something else I need in life.
And also, yeah, girls don't like thinking boys. That's just the reality.
Hey, and that's an important thing for all the young guys out there to realise. And I reckon a true mate is someone who's able to say to you, hey bro, let me talk to you about deodorant. Yeah. Just the wonderful things that it can do to us.
Or, hey mate, you've got something between your teeth.
Yeah.
Don't really.
I love to watch you shine. I love to cross your mind. Anywhere you be.
In a culture where a lot of people know about this God you're presenting, then they have this encounter. I know that's what worked for me. I had a knowledge about God, but when God opened my eyes to His reality, you know, many years ago, I shan't say how long, but when God began to open my eyes to His reality, He ceased to be something I knew about and a code of ethics to debate or an ideological point of view. He became real and alive. Isn't that true for you? If not, it can be. Because
Definitely.
I guess for me, nothing less would have done. I was so trapped in sexual sin. I didn't know the way out, and I thought God hated people like me. I, like probably a lot of young people in any audience who were struggling in sexual ways, I was bound by an awful lot of shame. I felt completely disqualified from God's love and acceptance. And I'm so grateful that God overruled that with the revelation of His good character. That's what I needed. I didn't need more moral lecturing. Even if I would have agreed the way I lived was wrong, I needed to know, what can I do about that? And what a wonderful thing to get to paint a picture of hope in the lives of young people before they go further down a path. Why not, you know, prevent some damage than just repair it and get people on a better path sooner than later. For even if in a concert you can't solve every problem, of course you can begin to encourage people in a healthier path. And I know that's part of what your mission is about, is to have that experience happen for people. Now, switching gears for just a moment and getting a little more personal. Okay, so you guys are rock gods.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, but you know, it is true if you know much about the music scene, whether you're a secular performer or a Christian one or a crossover artist, the fact of the matter is you've got a platform. You've got people who look at you and people who also throw themselves. I mean, I've been behind the VIP velvet rope with some artists, and I've seen how in clubs people just throw themselves sexually at artists. And no doubt for people who are starving for love or for people who need to feel affirmed in an audience, even a Christian one. You know, we've got people with various kinds of damage. They've been starved for love as well. And how do you guys walk with integrity in a world where you're on the stage, in the spotlight, under pressure, with satanic attack, and you also got to maintain your own integrity in a world of risk? What do you do?
How do we do it? I reckon, see, this is something we've thought about for a while, and it goes back to I think for the most we do very well. And it goes back to where we come from as a band as a bunch of friends who, before we did the band thing, we were a group of friends.
Yeah.
And so it's about not being a loner and not handling stuff alone, not handling the troubles and the trials alone, and also supporting your mates. So when we face stuff, we talk about it and we support each other. We keep each other accountable to it as a group. Now, I know if I'm on my own with a lot of these things, I'll fail abysmally. I'll fail terribly, but I know that there's a bunch of guys who travel with me, and that helps. I remember a few years ago we had before the band thing came together, this group of friends when we were at college together, one of the other guys who we did play with musically said, my good friend from school, who I play racquetball with, has just told me that he fancies me, he's really keen on me. And we're like, okay, wow, what do you do about that? I've never had that happen before.
Yeah.
And essentially, we welcomed him into our group of friends. And we hung out with him, we did stuff together with him, and we talked to him about Jesus, and he became a Christian. And he said a year later, after that, we said, how's your year been becoming a Christian? Of us continuing to love him and be friends with him. And he said, it's been the hardest year of my life. I thought it would get easier when I became a Christian, but it's been, honestly, the hardest year of my life, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. And to me, that was just testimony of the fact that he found the truth, he wanted to chase after it, he had a lot of deep digging to do and a lot of work to be done, but he had a group of friends who loved him and accepted him and hung out with him.
And you know, you make a point that years ago, the famed sexologist Masters and Johnson brought to bear in their research of people who struggle with same-sex attractions, for example. For those who had these unwanted attractions, they said that they had a very high recovery rate if they had two ingredients, and you just mentioned them. If you're not aware, let's spell it out. They had a high motivation to deal with this. They wanted something more than just satisfying their sexual desires. And secondly, they had motivation and support. Really, that's probably true for all of us. Dealing with any kind of sexual concern, these problems are real and pressing. And having to corral your flesh and bring it under control isn't very easy. It's much easier to give in and indulge it and find others who'll rationalize that with you. But you know, this guy had his eyes open to something that became more important than just getting what he wanted. And I think he also makes the point. His real issue, I think, with you wasn't so much that he wanted you maybe sexually as much as he only knew how to interpret his attraction sexually. Because I remember in my own experience, when men began to love me in God's family, I discovered that what I thought meant sexual attraction was really just hunger for their love and identification with them. And to be able to get that in a healthy way meant that my real need for love got satisfied, but I didn't have to be sexual to get it. And you prove that point again in this testimony, where again this guy finds that real love, the real bread, fed him. And it became more potent and powerful than looking for love amiss. How many young people certainly need that message, if not all of us, even you watching today. If you've struggled in ways like that, there is a God who says in John chapter 6, Jesus said it, having talked with a sexually sinful woman who was living with her fifth sexual partner. He didn't criticize her for looking for love amiss, but he said, you know, I've got the living water, I've got the bread of life, feed off of that, and it will quench your thirst better than that will. So God doesn't criticize the fact we're hungry and thirsty. He just wants that directed toward the first best source. So I encourage you to think about that today.
So, man, I'm struggling with this. You know, some of the things, I mean, we're guys, we're average guys. You know, we struggle with the things guys struggle with when they grow up, you know?
That's right.
And being able to say, I'm having a tough time with this right now. It's like, hey, me too. You know? And it's like, oh, really? Are you? Oh, wow.
That's
you know,
right.
and that immediately creates an openness. But the great thing about it is it creates an environment where you can understand that, okay, this is a common issue, but bigger than that, I'm not alone on it.
Oh, yeah.
And also, eventually, as well as you get good counselling from each other and you can people can input into your lives, you realise that God's not going, man, you stuffed up, you've made bad choices, I can't work with this.
That's right.
He's going, let's move on, let's put this behind us and let's grow.
Let me show you life.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And how many people are lacking that in church culture? How blessed that you all have painted a picture here that whether you're a rock band or whether you're an everyday believer, certainly it's been true in my own life. I need a team of people around me who love me and who affirm and value me, but also can help me kind of toe the line in a world of many rationalizations and voices and choices calling my name. It helps me stay on a clearer path. And if you're watching and you've been all alone, one of the reasons why we come into your home through this program is that you can know there are resources. You can know that there are people who've struggled. You can be encouraged to know that there are places you can go to get some support and encouragement. That's why we want you to come and visit us online at www.purepassion.us. And there we've got links and lots of good information to take you a little further, that you don't have to struggle with this alone. Certainly certainly you don't have to struggle alone with God either. Maybe you got a mask on before the world, but you don't need to wear one with your Creator, who loves you just like you are, and He'll take you further than maybe you thought. Don't run from Him, run to Him. You can't wear a mask with Him, and you surely don't need to. It's one of the most important things I've ever learned. Run to God, not from Him. Again, guys, thanks. It's been great to have you on board today. And let's end by taking a look at the lads in concert.
It's time to say goodbye. Hanging up my earth suit in a blink, in a sign, in an inch of a moment. Blast off and be transported out, leaving life as I know it. I can see the light ahead is where I'll be. Standing in the sun, feel it coming down. Heaven, amazing love elevated me. Standing in the sun, life has just begun. Home now forever, where I was made to be. Breaking through your atmosphere, see the new horizon. Crossing over to the other side, prepare for my arrival. There's a change, there's a shift, there's a light in the distance. Touchdown to another world, to a brand new existence. I can see the light, it's shining over me. Standing in the sun, feel it coming down. Heaven, amazing love elevated me. Standing in the sun, life has just begun. Home now forever, where I was made to be. This is home to ground control. Are you plugged into the receiver? 'Cause this ain't only rock and roll. You can call me a believer. I want everyone I know to one day see what I see. Standing in the sun, feel it coming down. Heaven, amazing love elevated me. Standing in the sun, life has just begun. Home now forever, where I was made to be. Standing in the sun, heaven, amazing love elevated me. Now I see your face, light in every space, drawing me nearer for all eternity. Got steps I'm taking.